Incarcerated for years, Leo missed the most important moments of his family's life. Can he find a way to repair the connections he broke? Or will he forever remain a stranger to his own daughter? Before we dive into this emotional journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a powerful story. Like if you believe in second chances, and share this with someone who needs a reminder that it's never too late to rebuild. Drop a comment below and tell us what freedom really means to you. Let's start the conversation. Leo had always loved the feel of wood under his fingertips. There was something about it that made him feel connected to the world, like he could communicate with the grain, understand its stories. Before the prison walls closed in around him, Leo was a skilled carpenter, hands steady and sure, able to create beauty from rough, unyielding timber. He had a wife, Sarah, and a daughter, Maya, who filled his world with laughter and love. He never thought he'd lose it all. Now, as he stood on the other side of the prison gate, Leo felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, the sun too bright, the air too fresh. He squinted against the light, clutching the plastic bag that held his few belongings, a pair of worn jeans, a few shirts, and a letter from Maya. It had been years since he'd seen her, years since he'd been part of anything that resembled a family. And yet this letter was the only thing that had kept him going inside, his connection to the world he lost. The air felt wrong. Freedom was supposed to feel liberating, but it didn't. It was foreign. He was free, yes, but the world had moved on without him. He had missed everything. The car ride with Sarah was quiet. She picked him up from prison, her face a mask of forced calm, her eyes avoiding his. Their hug when he first stepped into the car was stiff, like handling something fragile, something broken. His arms felt like they didn't belong to him anymore. They were clumsy, unused to anything other than the iron bars that had defined his existence for the last 7 years. Sarah had learned how to live without him. She had learned how to fill the space he left. And now, here he was, trying to squeeze back into a life that didn't fit him anymore. She spoke in clipped sentences, avoiding his gaze when she could. He knew she was still angry, angry at him for leaving, angry at him for taking their daughter's childhood away. "I'm sorry," he whispered as they drove, his voice hoarse and unfamiliar. "You don't need to say that," Sarah replied, her voice barely audible. "You're here now. That's all that matters." That night, Leo slept on the floor of their bedroom, the bed feeling too soft, too unfamiliar. He could feel the mattress sinking beneath him, and it made him anxious. The hard, unforgiving floor of his prison cell had been his comfort, his constant. This softness felt like a trap, something he couldn't escape, something that might swallow him whole. His body was no longer his own. He wasn't sure how to live in it anymore. The next day, Sarah asked him to go to the store. It was a simple task, one he'd done 1,000 times before, but now it felt like a prison sentence in itself. He stood in the cereal aisle staring at the endless rows of choices, and his breath started to catch in his throat. There were too many choices, too many options, too much freedom. Panic clawed at him, and before he could stop it, the world spun around him. The colors blurred, the sounds of the store faded, and all he could focus on was the overwhelming sense of being lost. A panic attack, one he'd learned to hide behind bars, now gripped him with the same suffocating force it had inside. He felt hands on his shoulders, a voice calling his name. It was Sarah pulling him back from the edge. But even as she steadied him, he could feel the walls of the grocery store closing in, reminding him that freedom was not as easy as he thought it would be. A few days later, an invitation arrived. It was from Maya, her high school graduation. Leo stared at the letter in disbelief. Maya, his daughter, the little girl he had left behind. She was now a stranger to him, a person he had only known through pictures and stories from Sarah. The weight of the letter crushed him. He hadn't been there for her first day of school, her first heartbreak, or her triumphs. He had missed everything. He had been locked away in a cage, and now freedom felt like the same cage, only without bars. He clutched the letter to his chest, a tear slipping down his cheek. The freedom he had fought for felt meaningless without the family he had destroyed. The family sat down to dinner that night. Leo took his seat at the table, but when he reached for the spoon, he froze. The smooth, curved metal of the spoon felt like a foreign object in his hand. His fingers tightened around it, and for a moment he could almost hear the clink of the prison utensils, the cold steel that had defined his meals for years. He couldn't stop himself from gripping the spoon too tightly, his knuckles white, his body stiff. The room was quiet except for the soft clink of utensils and the low hum of conversation. Sarah and Maya exchanged a glance, but neither of them said anything. Leo dropped the spoon onto his plate with a clatter, his face burning with shame. It wasn't just the spoon, it was everything. He had been a prisoner of his past, and now he was a prisoner in his own home. Maya's graduation arrived, and with it, the family gathered to take photos. The tension in the air was palpable, and Leo stood off to the side, feeling like an intruder. He wasn't part of this moment, wasn't part of this family anymore. He had been absent for too long. When it was time for the group photo, Leo volunteered to take the picture. He looked through the lens of the camera, trying to focus on the family before him, the family he no longer belonged to. But as he snapped the picture, something shifted in Maya's expression. For the first time, she looked at him, not with anger, but with something else. Recognition, understanding. She saw the sacrifice he was making, and in that moment, Leo saw a crack in the wall between them. Dark night of the soul. The next week, things worsened. Neighbors began to whisper. Word spread that a convicted felon was living in their midst, and petitions were signed to have him removed from the neighborhood. Leo had been trying so hard, but he couldn't escape the shadow of his past. No matter how much he tried to build, to create, to reconnect, he was still the man who had been locked away. That night, Leo packed his bag, intending to leave. He couldn't bear to be the ghost that haunted his family. He wrote a letter to Maya, explaining that he wasn't the man they needed. He wasn't the father he used to be. But before he left, he heard footsteps behind him. Maya, he whispered, turning around. She was standing in the doorway, holding his letter in her hands. I know who you are, Dad, she said softly. You're not who you were, but you're still my father. Leo stared at his daughter, a tear slipping down his cheek. He wanted to say something, but his voice caught in his throat. He wasn't sure who he was anymore. But before he could speak, Maya stepped forward, handing him the hammer they had used earlier to fix the porch step. We'll rebuild together, she said, her voice steady. But you have to be here, Dad. You have to stay. Leo's hands shook as he took the hammer from her. He wasn't sure if he could do it. He wasn't sure if he could stay. But Maya's eyes were filled with hope, and for the first time in years, Leo felt the stirrings of something inside him. A spark. Maybe, just maybe, he could rebuild. But as he raised the hammer to begin, the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. Was it too late? Would his past catch up with him once again? If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who need to hear Leo's journey. Drop a comment below and let us know what part of his story moved you the most. Your support means the world and helps bring more powerful stories like this one to life. Stay tuned for more emotional journeys.